fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. Hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
What people do in no money, what they at you, it no at you. Covid money, me say we in the year little rat you. Use the youth, them money, waste a must a man to statue. Say me like a catch you, but they got in a figure you. Take the spit of money, God and say that is not you. On the head, the man above him, him a got up. Too much it in the kitchen, some a fly by like a patu. When singers and DJs and social media's coming at you.
It burn me
300% free.
It burn me
Garbage pile of it.
It burn me
Give the teacher them raise.
It burn me
I see corruption peace.
It burn me
Mash down the people them house.
It burn me
Every day appear arms out.
It burn me
Appear money them a thief.
It burn me
And them a sell out the beach.
Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. Can't buy scallion, we can't buy time. You can't fool me again. Can't fool me again. You can't fool me again. You hold me down for a very long time. Can't buy sugar, we can't buy lime. You touch up line and a resort to crime. You can't fool me again.
Come me say big up all the charities and all of the givers. Some a go like say them powerful, me no mega bigger. The 100 the promises, none of them not deliver. Cut up the youth, they rap and they down in a whatever. Member bold money and they lie them tell. Corruption smell and they pocket them swell. When police don't a market like Satan out of hell, go mash up people start like thief when them sell.
It burn me
On they treat the market man.
It burn me
On them a treat the cat man.
It burn me
On they treat the peanut man.
It burn me
On them a treat the dirt man.
It burn me
How them a treat the soul man.
It burn me
How them a treat policeman.
It burn me
How them a treat soldier man.
It burn me
How them a treat everyone.
Can't fool me again.
Stibbidim day, stibbidim day, stibbidim day. We in Global TV says certain kind of friend we no cape. And some informer friend we lovely. We in Global, bona fake friend and bona tape. We in Global, we not promote them, we not support them. Look at them on the cheek, come here represent for we in Global TV. Check it.
Good evening and welcome to Drive Time London. Let me first say I'm having lots of technical problems from the other day. I'm unable to change my background. So my background is not reflective of what I'm talking about, but never mind. Make we run out of them. Good evening and welcome to Drive Time London. Thank you for joining us. You know there's disruption in Drive Time London because it is summer in London and one wants to enjoy the sun. But summer gone in a hiding today behind Gibraltar Rock is where summer is because of bare rain and bad weather over here from morning. So I catch up in the house and I say, let us do our Drive Time London. Good evening and welcome. Thank you all for joining us. Good evening to my community of party and all my family members, platform membership holders, viewers and subscribers, commenters. Good evening and welcome. Sunshine, Natalia Freeman, Perspective Power, Danet Harriet, Elaine Turner, Kate M. Bueller, Sunshine, Yvonne Johnson, Laverne Beckford. Good evening and welcome. Millicent Jones, Joan Brown, Norman Ferguson. Good evening all and welcome. Thank you for joining us. Murdo, we hear them talk one little nice phrase again. What I want your name? Conflict of interest. I know the JLP them alone. Definitely. I know the JLP them alone. Hypocritical. There are a lot of people on social media that are very hypocritical and are misleading you in the way they're presenting their information to you. There are a lot of mainstream media who are also misleading you in the way they are reporting the information to you. Denise Hall. The conflict of interest that is bearing down on one side, it is misinformation by JLP operatives in social media and mainstream media. Alison Hamilton, Wagwan, long time no see. This information, distraction, diverting from what is the reality, creating narrative in order, Jem Ashley, to rile the public. Our duty on social media is to always, at our best, try to inform you so that you can go on a deeper search on information. But I'm going to address some of the hocus pocuses. Jamaican politics, sunny days. This colorism rant that you're on. Shameful, is it not? For a woman to be going on about Mark Golden birth heritage. White Mark Golden, sunny days, could not have chose his mother. His mother, though, could have chose his father. But what Mr. Golden couldn't have done, sunny days, is chose his parent. You, on the other hand, Miss Days, you have the choice as a black woman who's leading such a racist chant, a xenophobic chant. Hey, Deborah Cohen, against the leader of the opposition. You, Miss Days, had the choice of whether you got impregnated for a white man or for a black man or for a chief, Miss Days, or an Indian, did you not? You chose to bear a child with a white man, Miss Days, Sonia Johnson. How come you so high? A woman who bear a child with a white man. How come Sunny Days so high in a xenophobic, racist rhetoric that Andrew Holness paid the resistant movement to engage in order to discredit Mark Golden? Oh, how rich. Oh, how rich, Miss Days. But because on the if mislead people who don't have certain knowledge and who refuse to go and look for it, then Ono can go and tell people in a convincing voice that this is what it is. And poor them who don't know better follow along blindly with the lying, deceiving information that Uno put out in a public in order to get back one over because of Uno hurt and pain. Where they go to the heart string, Patrick Evans, Pauline Dixon. So it's very rich of you, Sunny Days. Jamaican politics you call uncovered, you call yourself. Very rich as a woman who bear a child with a white man to be chanting racist and xenophobic rhetoric. Very rich. Couldn't richer. If you mix up gold and diamond and silver together, you couldn't get it richer than the argument you're producing in public. You have no shame, woman. How does your child feel to hear you going on about Mark Golden's color and Mark Golden's birth heritage? How does your child feel? Shameful, is it not? To be going on about birthright and heritage. Shameful. Same thing applied to the goose, Miss Days, applied to the gander. Ron Williams. No, you have to adjust some waste of space sometime, Ron. You have to adjust some of the waste of space them sometime, and you have to correct them narrative in a public. It's not all what it seems, my people. It's not all what it seems. Some of them are hide behind a lot of things. Martha Couponing Foundation. Good evening and welcome. So Karen Cross and our whole flock behind her. Shameful bunch of sellout. And so no hungry that you can sell out Norman Manley if you want a little pittance from Andrew Holness. I so bad it be. I so loose on loyalty did be. That's why you couldn't stick out the bad time, Karen Cross, Michelle Stern, Sunny Days, Princess Hall, Marva Jones. You couldn't stick it out and a whole house. You couldn't stick out the pain. You not get away with the racist narrative around here. Ask Lisa Hannah who her father is. Lisa ain't Hannah by birth. Just like how Andrew Holness mama don't know who I'm Papa. Ask Lisa Hannah said. Global TV says, who is Lisa Hannah's father? And tell Lisa Hannah come answer with. We could tell her who her father is about here. Ask Lisa Hannah said, Global Television says, if the man where our mama gear to, that our right father, go, pretty girl, and do a DNA test. Anyway, Everett Warmington, how are you, sir? Shitpit, Pen, Warmington, conflict of interest. British this, British that. Remember, Mr. Warmington, Rosie D, you raped a British subject, did you not? And oh no, Mr. Warmington, I am not talking about when you rape Andre Stevens. No, not that, Mr. Warmington. Did you, Everett Warmington, rape a British subject? Is the question, Mr. Warmington. Are you going to answer? Did you, Everett Warmington, rape a British subject? And we're not talking about Andre Stevens, who confirmed to us that you raped him. We're talking about the young man from the Grand Cayman, Mr. Warmington. The young man from the Grand Cayman who was invited to the lodge meeting that you raped violently, Mr. Warmington. My question is, I'm not going to ask about the prosecution. I am going to ask how much money did you pay Everett Warmington to silence the family? Me have the recording, you know. Ask Andre, both me and Andre have the recording of that rape, Everett Warmington. Did you, Everett Warmington, rape a British subject, an 18 to 19-year-old young man, invited from the Grand Cayman to the lodge meeting, the lodge that you're a part of? Nova, how are you? The lodge that you are a part of, Mr. Warmington. We know you raped the young man. I'm not going to ask if you raped him. I'm not going to ask about the prosecution either. What I'm going to ask about the hush money payment, Mr. Warmington. How much hush money payment did you pay? It's of public interest. We know you committed the offense. We know you weren't prosecuted for the offense because there was an out-of-court settlement not to pursue prosecution against Mr. Warmington. Or question, Mr. Warmington, How much was the hush money? You can't sue me, no. I guarantee you can't. Andre Stevens will bear me witness, not only to his rape, but to the intelligence of that rape, Mr. Warmington, from another of your lodge member, Mr. Warmington, Jacqueline Murray. Is this a politician to be running around chanting credibility, conflict of interest, loyalty, and all of what comes with it in public? Seriously, Edward Warmington, it's not that you're just your mouth is an outside toilet, Mr. Warmington. The entire of you represents an outside latrine. Are you the correct person to be going around talking about conflict of interest, loyalty, or anything that have any good decadence attached to it? Seriously, Everett Warmington. Who not expect to believe, you know? It's still rape, Kate M. It's still a type of rape. It's a sexual assault rape, as Andre says it. Still a kind of rape. So sexual assault. Are you the person to go around talking about credibility, conflict of interest? Seriously, Everett Warmington? Some things you have to leave alone. Just like how you act deaf when people use the word good governance, and you don't want to talk. You act like you don't hear. You act like Obiaman sent frog with padlock, mouth shut. Nobody can talk. But when it comes to telling lie, mystery, misinformation, narrative, Patrick Evans, you can always be depend on Labour and their cronies to be ahead of the queue. Let me remind you, them same thing they work when I did just JDC and RJR. I tell lie. The whole of we know, in the words of Abraham Theory, can have our own opinion on social media. We can put our own narrative to the world. We can put our own information to the world. But what we should not seek to do is to misinform people, misdirect people, because to benefit our political narrative or our pain and hurt. To make it an issue that is not in opposition to the Constitution. It is in fact protected by the Constitution, and therefore couldn't have raised a conflict of interest if the Jamaican Constitution says any Commonwealth citizen with a Jamaican citizenship and any dual Commonwealth citizen of a Jamaica and another Commonwealth country passport holder can participate in our politics after living in the country for a year. Mark Bolden, who was born, raised, and lived in Jamaica, cannot be by virtue in conflict of interest, Miranda Rado, because he holds a dual nationality, which is protected by the Constitution. It cannot raise a conflict of interest, not while it is protected by the Constitution. Violet Watson. The Constitution never made further stipulation around that. Say, if they are descendant of the slave master as the charge, they must be exempt. No, the Constitution never make that stipulation. So therefore, like any other white leader before Mark Golding, the Mandleys, the Thiagas, and any of them who had that white heritage, that didn't block them from becoming a prime minister for Jamaica. Why all of a sudden? Because the Jamaica Labour Party has run out of ways of dealing with issue of governance. The Jamaica Labour Party has turned to racism and xenophobia. Kamar Johnson. After 40 years of their interventionist with gangsterism and violence, because they couldn't deal with the issue of governance of the day, the Jamaica Labour Party, under the behest of Edward Seaga, that white man, that white-born Bostonian, took a deal from the CIA to crush the people of Jamaica who wanted further disengagement from the Western process and a Cuban alignment. Yvonne Russell. That same party is leading the charge. The disgruntled members of the People's National Party, like the bunch of waste space, the garbage bin commodities, the Michael Manley PNPs, the Norman Washington Manley PNP. You see the hypocrisy, my people. Only Mark Golding wake up all of a sudden. Mark Golding wake up overnight and become white. All of a sudden, political family heritage matters in our politics. The birther movement, it was called in America. Tony Tall, Marcia Gale. The birther movement, everything that Donald Trump does, alternative facts, the birther movement, the denouncing of reality, the crushing of the norm of democratic convention and principles. Have we not seen that same trend from the Andrew Holness regime? Tell me if I lie, may I tell. Have you not seen that trend from the Andrew Holness regime? The anti-democratic behavior, Brenda Elson. The anti-democratic behavior. The refusal to accept what are conventional norms in our constitutional system. Do you not see a correlation between the Trumpins and the Bro Goddins? Well, not seeing a similarity between the two camps. The Donald Trump camp and the Andrew Holness camp. We're not seeing a similarity. But a lot of our people in mainstream media and social media are looking at politics in reverse. The government is getting away with hogwash at the moment. Because of political narrative, everybody is being centered, Jamaican Carlos, Wagwan. Because of political narrative, everybody is being centered and holding Mount Golden and his British citizenship to account. EM. But politically, though, it is the government of the day that you hold to account. It is true that from any of our public officials, the avoidance of conflict of interest is an important one that we must not lose sight of. Conflict of interest raises when we deviate from the norm. A conflict of interest cannot rise on an issue permitted by our Constitution. As I explained earlier this morning, the wide open hypocrisy that is being played here, Chris B. 2007, the People's National Party took the Jamaica Labour Party, took the Constitutional Court, because there are quite a few members of the Jamaica Labour Party sitting in Parliament with dual citizenship, but of American and Jamaican dual citizenship. Karen Bernard. Which is a violation of our Constitution, Dorothy Elliott. And rightly so, the court upheld the Constitution. In 2011, this same Andrew Holness charged the political atmosphere to say the dual citizenship must be extended further in the diaspora, so those of Jamaican heritage with American dual nationality can participate in our politics. In this constitutional review, what Mount Golden is offering to the government is an olive branch with regards to the dual nationality in our parliament. Mount Golden is thereby saying, now that we are under a constitutional review, this is the time to deal with this particular issue of dual citizenship. And Mount Golden's offer, real sweet, to the government is that the People's National Party will not oppose to expanding RJ, given the change in times, given the diaspora interest, voice of this current century. We, the People's National Party, will not push back on expanding Agency Driver 5, the dual citizenship thing, so that those in the American diaspora who have dual citizenship can participate in our politics. That is the issue here, you know. But because they have been caught flat-footed over the final court, rather than answering that question or have a very royal consensus on it, the Prime Minister and his cronies in social and mainstream media go out on a rant to discredit the leader of the opposition. That has blocked Jamaica Republic process because of his British heritage and his British passport holding. If that bit of the Constitution which permits, because I'm going to explain to you where this narrative doesn't make sense. Unless the new constitutional review prevent dual citizenship, then there wouldn't be any reason to be having this argument about Mark Golden. Veteran, how you do? And let me tell you why. Jamaica becoming a republic doesn't mean that Jamaica is not a member of the Commonwealth. They're two different things. Jamaica is still going to be a member of the Commonwealth Club, which is what the Constitution says, Florence Hamilton. A Jamaican national and a member of the Commonwealth can participate in our politics. Are you going to change that clause in our Constitution? Because becoming a republic, it wouldn't bar people like Mark Golden, because that doesn't depend on whether we are a republic or not. That particular clause has to do with membership of the Commonwealth. We're still going to be a member of the Commonwealth. Becoming a republic doesn't automatic withdrawals from the Commonwealth. We're still a member of the club. It's a club membership. It has nothing to do with governance per se as to our constitutional arrangement. We're still going to be a member of the club that is led by the monarch. Conflict of interest. Is the Prime Minister, for those of us who are talking about Mark Golden should avoid conflict of interest, does these operatives in mainstream and social media see the glaring conflict, ongoing conflict of interest from the same government? This same government that is talking about conflict of interest. These same operatives who are going around talking about conflict of interest of Mark Golden, Stacey. None don't see no current conflict of interest in our governance. Loyalty. Divided loyalty was what the Prime Minister spoke about. Carlos says, what about the Prime Minister's wife as Speaker of the House? Is that any conflict of interest? What about the Prime Minister taking so much offices into his office? Is there a conflict of interest in governance? What about the Prime Minister's wife on the Constituency Development Fund Committee that chairs the Constituency Development Fund Committee? Is it a conflict of interest? What about the Prime Minister's business interest in St. Lucia? Is it a conflict of interest? What about the Prime Minister offshore business dealing? Is it a conflict of interest? What about the Prime Minister offshore companies and the people the Prime Minister employ offshore? Is it a conflict of interest to him as a leader of Jamaica, John Pugh? What about the Prime Minister's domicile status as to whether he paid tax in Jamaica or in St. Lucia? Is it a conflict of interest? If you talk to dumb, deaf, and blind people, then you wouldn't be able to get an answer. If the Prime Minister has not declared his assets, if the Prime Minister is 3 years, 4 years running late and submitting his statutory declaration, is it a conflict of interest? Does conflict of interest matters only when it got to do with passport holding and nationality? Or does conflict of interest matter a whole across the entire government spectrum? Is it Andrew Holness or Mark Golden on issue of conflict of interest? Is it Andrew Holness or Mark Golden we should be holding accountable on issue of conflict of interest? The Prime Minister refusing to sign in the Code of Conduct. The Prime Minister refusing to allow any of his cabinet member or party member to sign the Code of Conduct. Is there a conflict of interest? Bartimaeus, one eye Enos's, blind Bartimaeus. Is there a conflict of interest when the Prime Minister got his retirement home in St. Lucia? The Prime Minister got multiple offshore businesses in St. Lucia. The Prime Minister has a private yacht in St. Lucia. The Prime Minister has a private helicopter in St. Lucia. Is there a conflict of interest? Is there a conflict of interest in the Prime Minister's business dealing? Are the opposition around the country now? Other country does the Prime Minister have a dual citizenship? Boris Johnson, Stacey. Boris Johnson, former British Prime Minister, was a dual citizen. Boris Johnson is an American by birth, and from my understanding, did still hold his American citizenship. And Boris Johnson is also British. So Boris Johnson. And furthermore, Sunshine Black, how are you? The Jamaican Constitution is not in a position to Mark Golden being a leader with dual nationality. The Jamaican Constitution is not in opposition to that. The current Jamaican Constitution is in opposition to an American citizenship holder becoming involved in our politics. Mark Golden is given this government under constitutional review to broaden that scope so that those in the American diaspora and so on will be able to engage in our politics. That is the olive branch Mark Golden is handing to this government, rather than accepting and develop on that offer and have a consensus from it. The government went out on a useless rant about citizenship and nationality, which is irrelevant because Mark Golden doesn't have an American nationality. If he did, then all right, well, we should have this debate and he would be subjected to cause and should abide by the public called Jackie Graham to renounce his American citizenship. We're not talking about that here. We're talking about a British citizenship, a Commonwealth citizenship accepted, protected by our current constitutional framework. Take the opportunity on your wholeness to change it, hereby removing the entire dual citizenship right for everybody, including the Commonwealth. Or you can have a consensus on your wholeness to broaden it. But what you're not going to succeed in is running around telling lies, because your aim in the constitutional review, and your wholeness, is to deny the Jamaican people of access to justice by refusing to take up membership as a republic in the regional Caribbean Court of Justice, thereby making it easier for Jamaicans to access final justice, more accessible and more affordable. Janet Jones. Cynthia B. And because you have been caught out flat-footed on that, what you do best is rile up the people with the narcissistic pigpen behavior of what the Labour Party does when it runs out of political ideas. We've seen it before. It's not the first. We've seen what that propaganda warfare with the Americans, the CIA, and the Seaga regime did to Jamaica. Sanction, food embargo, importations of guns, creation of garrisons. Yes, the white Seaga did that. The same white Seaga that chained this current crook we're dealing with as Andrew Holness, Mary Messenger TV. That same Seaga who coach and mentor this crook that we're dealing with. But our politics has become shameful. For our politics to revert to racism and xenophobia, let me show you where racism and xenophobia take political atmosphere. Britain, racism and xenophobia, and I'm talking about modern just yesterday. Britain was a member in Europe from a long time, but ratified in 1972. Britain exists from Europe was a ponder brose to racism and xenophobia. Nigel Farage, those of who would remember him, took a racist and xenophobia campaign nationwide on the matter of immigration. The racist British public gather around him. And that brought political fear to a weak David Cameron at that time, the leader of the Conservative Party. In order to quiet the storm, what David Cameron did, in order to level the playing field in the Conservative far-right center ground, was to say, if I won the next election, I will give you all a referendum as to whether Britain come out of Europe or not. And because the xenophobic and racial rant was so high, the racists outvoted those who wanted to stay in Europe, thereby wallow-washing and mullow-washing the British economy ever since the exit of Brexit, given British economy how it was. Given the British economy how it was. The Trumpian era, xenophobic politics. What was Trump campaign started on? Build that wall. Build that wall. Xenophobic rhetoric. Racist rhetoric. Denise Hilton. Was that not the rise of Donald Trump? The racial and xenophobic rhetoric. So to see the state of Jamaica revert to racial and xenophobic rhetoric, it is very worrying. When you see me, when you touch me, you know I am real. I am your brother. I am your friend. I am just like you. Was a racial tone. Was a racial tone, now that we see what we're experiencing, was the start, the introduction of that racial rhetoric that they're now using in order to discredit Mark Golden because they cannot stand up to policies, good governance issue, accountability, transparency. The list run wild of their failures. I mean, one failing on their 100-day policy, you couldn't have failed much further. Your failure couldn't have been more alarming. When I hit the like button, I can go right in at the rain now. And practice gonna take it for about here. I look at how much of them like it. 55 on, 58 on, and 126 on. They are fool not take me for. Nah, fool maybe, not true. One day I go come out and I go say I'm tearing down no face for 1 straight hour. I could not say me a nana fool. Me idiot, me dunce at the nesta, me used to people buy a nesta book at school. So me no learn nothing. Me no learn nothing at school. Me fool, backwards, dunce. Like Nesta Morgan. So no can sit down and don't like the life. Cause fool and not talk to you, see. You not talk to fool. So no can sit down with no finger stick on the side. While me one day I bat out me. I chat me love chat so. Of course me may go to school for chat, but that not said. Me want for just a chat. Vivian Hamilton. I got long so. One and a half finger. Just like how me have mouth. One and a half finger. But we're not going to make them get away with introducing racism amongst us. We're not going to allow them to discredit the out of many one people Jamaica motto. We should not let them do it. Because everywhere we go, we stand firm on it. Out of Jamaica, 1 minute, out of many people. Everyone green. We grew up amongst white people, Chinese people, and Indian people. A lot of us. So if this Prime Minister bring division to it based on heritage and color, the Prime Minister is invoking division on the island that can lead to civil war. Because the Prime Minister is invoking division. Raymond G. And division are going to start have category, class, and privilege. Things like those can lead to civil unrest. Your Prime Minister is baiting a war and uprising in the country. The Prime Minister wants to test him things them from despotic, murderous, genocidal state of Israel. Call for a leader. Ask on a leader, Simone Bedford. Cut political, economic, diplomatic, and security ties with the barbarous state of Israel, that murderous state of Israel, that apartheid state of Israel. If you're listening to the Jamaican people, remove your wife as Speaker of the House. President Robert Mugabe was ring-fenced by his political supporters until President Mugabe decided to hand over power to Mrs. Mugabe, Grace Mugabe, his wife. Thereby, President Mnangagwa placed Mugabe under house arrest and took over the reins of Zimbabwe, because even though described as the crocodile of his brutal crackdown, the current president of Zimbabwe, of his brutal crackdown and opposition, Mr. Emerson Mnangagwa was not going to tolerate President Mugabe conflict of interest by handing over reins of Zimbabwe to his inexperienced wife, all because she was young and beautiful. Unacceptable, President Mnangagwa says. And thereby, he was removed from power. Are you, the people of Jamaica, going to allow Andrew Holness to turn your country into a dictatorship? Are you going to allow the Prime Minister to take your country into a republic that benefits the Prime Minister and his crony and not the people of Jamaica? Are you going to allow this Prime Minister, and Mark Golden, let me tell you something, you're going to have headache with us on this if you are given the chance after the next general election to take this constitutional review forward. We will not settle. I personally, Mark Golden, you're going to have a hard time with me on this. I will not accept nor campaign for a ceremonial president. I'm not going to campaign Mark Golden for Jamaica wasting more money. I want, as a part of this constitutional review, Mark Golden, meaningful separation of powers with the legislature and the executive. And under the current structure, the parliamentary democracy, we cannot maintain, we cannot do that. We have to have a separate system of executive president and separatism in our parliament. That's what I will support Mark Golden, but under no circumstances Arlene Foster. Mark Golden is going to have my support for a handshake presidency. That's wasting taxpayers' money. The country deserves better than that. We want to elect who runs our country. We want to elect, this is the meaning of decolonization, where our head of state was enforced upon us from slavery to now. Decolonization and republicanism means a people who owns the republic chooses their leader, chooses their head of state. We don't want a handshaking, ribbon-cutting crony. No, we don't. We want somebody to put to work, somebody to hit the ground running. Somebody that is separate outside of our parliament and don't get entangled in what is going to in our parliament so they can focus on the job that they are elected to do. So you're not going to have it easy around here, Mark Golden, if you don't drop your support for a ceremonial president. It's just not going to work. I will beg Jamaicans to vote down the Constitution until we're going to listen to the voice of the people who wants an elected executive president. We don't want an appointed. We do not want an appointed, ribbon-cutting, handshaking, fly around the world on taxpayers' money doing nothing president. No. We don't want them something that we can't afford it. We're struggling to afford the teeth them what we have already. And if we went to go take up more expensive teeth, because this is a teeth here we're going to take up, you know. It's going to be more expensive upkeep than the Governor General, which is in millions per year. Hundreds of millions per year to upkeep the ribbon cutting and handshaking. We don't want no more of that. We don't want no more of that. No, we don't want no more of that. We've been suffering under that from slavery to now. Give us the chance to choose between who decide to throw their hat in the ring to become the president of our country. We will select those of you who we want in the legislature to debate our laws. What we don't want is to continue. It's so we are decolonized and continue the cronyized system where Andrew Holness want kill off Mark Golding offer to stay and membership of the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council as a republic. Almighty God, if that is not the duncest thing me ever hear for a long time, me no know if I'm me just alert to dunceness or on not focus on it. If I ever heard, and the world will laugh after we. The world is laughing after a republic who wants to give its final judicial power to another country. Not just another country, the same old slave master where you say you detach yourself from. And me one dunce, make me dunce, son. Make me look out a Nesta book and get even more wrong than Nesta. Me looking at Nesta book just so, I may end up getting more wrong than Nesta. Then it proves to me done, sir. And I saw you go. Or a Labour Party looking at other people book and get more wrong than the people that they take copy from. And me are on. When are we done, sir? When are we done, Sonia Johnson? May we accept my part? Or not willing to accept phone? Because we can't go so. In the normal world, ask anybody who understand politics. Ask anybody who understand constitution. Republic and your Supreme Court is in another country. Me dunce. Me can't explain this better than me dunce. Janet Jones said the Labour them copy and get more wrong. That means they don't me. And the Labour them and not me. Won't ever hear them something happen in a life. I'm not a colony anymore. I'm not a British protectorate anymore. I'm not a British dependent anymore. I'm not a British overseas territory anymore. But I am subjected to the Judicial Committee of the Privy Council. Somebody work that on no semi dots. Oops, dear, sorry. Yes. Somebody help me, please. Write an equation to solve this problem. This can only be solved in a mathematical equation. Given my lack of understanding for maths and numbers and letters matched together, I will never be able to work it out. This is for you people who are math specialists, who know how to solve equation. It is your duty to work out how is it that a republic Supreme Court resides in another legal jurisdiction. Almighty God. I first thing me say I'm mad because I can't explain to you the context of it, why there is a logic to it, why it makes sense. We don't understand. We can't tell you no anymore. We can't tell you no anymore in relation to that. Because we wouldn't have to make it up like them. I'm not prepared right now to work and make up things. I was meant to read, but I think I'll do that tonight. I was meant to read an article written by Dr. I think it's Michael Witter. Dr. Michael Witter is a former lecturer, I believe, at the University of the West Indies. And he has written an article in relation to tackling indiscipline in schools. My head tired now. I believe, though, I will read that article for you on tonight's show because it's quite an interesting read. And maybe the government should have a sit down. The government and its team should have a sit down with Dr. Witter. Dr. Witter, the government should bring on board as an advisor, Ministry of Education. Here you have a lifelong educator with meaningful solution, operational solution to deal with the problem. Will the Ministry of Education take Dr. Witter on as an advisor in their efforts to review and tackle discipline in schools? But that article, an article in the Gleaner, was from Sunday. But and for those of you who wants to read it, that an article was reproduced. The letter was done on Saturday by Dr. Witter. But the Gleaner this morning has reproduced an article from that letter as well. So in the description area of this live, both the article and the letter is in the description area. No veteran at them figure L.A. Lewis go make L.A. Lewis take the obia off of them. And the obia where Babs they go work on them veteran across the scales. You don't see from Babs they go like the Kangland dance around the grotto. Haven't you seen the calamity veteran? From Babs they go light the green candle and dance round the grotto. You know, the calamity I hit them. So therefore, what them need from L.A. Lewis is not an explanation. Them need a washing off. Them need for go a cemetery, go knock against something like Opala did go knock against something in a cemetery. Them need a deeper cleaning veteran because darkness surround the Labour Party. That is why they cannot see or hear anything outside of that darkness. But thank you all very much for being on the Drive Time London this evening. Join us back tonight for the people's point of view, when we will continue to disperse, demystify the gibberish pushed by the Jamaica Labour Party and their campaign operative, and we will steer them right back into reality, which we should all be focusing on. So therefore, join us back here tonight, where we will continue to explore divided loyalty, conflict of interest, citizenship as opposed to the Jamaican Constitution, dual citizenship, Commonwealth, dual citizenship outside of the Commonwealth. The conversation at the moment coming from the Jamaica Labour Party and those who wish to spew their narrative, it is utter dunceness and misinformation, and we are making sure that misinformation doesn't slide in public. Good evening from Drive Time London.